Do you want to improve at a quicker pace? Check out the GitGud course. Instead of just understanding concepts, you'll learn how to implement them directly into your driving. What makes it effective is the approach and practical drills. Together, we're gonna focus on breaking down those complex concepts into small digestible bits that are simple to understand. Everything from the course was tested and refined during the years in coaching sessions, so what I ended up with was the ones that I saw were the most effective. Let's elevate your racing skills together. Now for the track guide. Guys, if you want to support the channel, giving it a like and a subscribe is a free way to do it, as I can continue to create more content like this. Now going into the track guide itself, turn 1 can be a difficult corner. The braking point will be before the exit road on the left side, or you can use the 50-meter board. What you have to know though is that for this corner we just want to push as much speed as we can while still holding the brake. So the trail braking phase here will be huge. Look here what's going on. So braking before the concrete on the left, still on the brakes 30%, 28, still on the brakes, apexing around the white and red curb. Now letting the car track out to the other curb on the outside, still on the brakes 29, 27, still trail braking, hitting this curb with our left tire. This will be a good cue for positioning the car. And now we'll turn more and more into the next one, still holding the brakes 20%, 18, 22, and now 12%, and now going back on throttle. So look at this shape right here. The braking lasts a lot of time. So you must know the point in which you should go on throttle. You should have a reference for going on throttle in this corner, not just the braking reference. So the reference for getting back on the throttle will be this curb right here, but not in the beginning. You see, this curve right here, it has a bit of a green part to it, and then it's red and white. What you need to hit is this part where you can already start to see the green on the exit of the curve, like this one. You can see between the windshield right now, you can see the green part of the curve where my mouse pointer is right now. When you see that, then you should be already back on the gas, because if you're too early into this corner, you will just run wide. So super important, don't brake hard, brake softer, but trail brake for longer, and then when you go on throttle, go aggressively to 100%. Ideally the car should reach this part, and in terms of the throttle corrections, you don't want to see throttle corrections here. You want just a straight upward application. Once you go on gas, don't let go of the throttle. If you do corrections, it means that your apex point was not that good. Now for the next corner, we need to position the car all the way to the right side. We will turn quite early for this corner. We will turn the moment that we see the curb properly. So right now we're turning into the corner and we're applying a bit of brakes. You don't want to brake too much here. We're using the brakes mostly to make the car rotate. So rotating, and even before hitting the curb, you should be back on the gas. So the braking doesn't last forever. You just want to put some weight on the front end of the car. Now you get the turn in, now you smash the throttle. Cut as much as you can this curve though. With your left tires, you should be aiming to brush the grass like this. And when you're landing, you should be prepared to take the next one by adding a bit of brakes and then a tiny bit of steering angle. You don't want to steer too much. You don't want to go like close to 90% is gonna be the max. And immediately you will go back on throttle, because it's okay if you reach here. It's okay if you reach this part of the track being mostly on the left. You don't want to have the car all the way on the right for the next corner. It's better to compromise it, because you can gain a lot more if you do this. Now for this corner, you will just try to bring the car to the center as much as you can. It's no problem if you don't have it all the way to the right side. And while going into this corner, again, small tap of the brakes, even smaller than before, like 5-10%, and then going back on gas, cutting a lot here. So use your steering wheel, make sure you're using the front tires for this corner, because you want to cut a lot. Hit 100% throttle, and again, it's okay if you're close to this part of the track. Like, you can carry the momentum, because from what's important here in this S section, it's like an S. The X, it doesn't matter too much. So your goal here is to avoid going from left to right. in these S's. You just want to almost go in a straight line what's possible. Obviously it's not a straight line, you're still turning as you can see, but don't turn more than you need. Don't try to over exaggerate the line and opening up more a certain corner because it's not that worth it. If you're keeping the same line as here in the video, you'll be good. And now for this corner, keep a very tight line. You see trail braking in the lower 15%. Trail brake a lot though, because you don't want to go super early on the throttle here. You just want to go close to the end. You can clip a bit the curb, it will slightly rotate the car for you, and then you will try to bring the car, this is super important, bring the car all the way to the white line in this corner. So if your previous corner exit will be wide, so if you will go wide out of this corner, if your positioning of the car won't be here in the center right, close to the right side, then you will lose a lot of time into this corner, because this is a corner where we need to position the car. From all the S's, this is the only corner where you want to sacrifice it in order to have a good entry into the next one, and that's exactly what we're doing here. Pushing now the car all the way to the right, and while taking this corner you can do a lift and a small tap on the brake to turn the car even more. It will work a bit better than doing just a lift, so be careful here, don't have a gap in your inputs, just turn a bit later, brake a bit later, add like 5-10% on the brakes and then smash the throttle like this. Super important to not do corrections on your way out on the gas. Keep your throttle pinned, and now we're heading towards the Lesmos. What you need to do is at the 50 or slightly before the 50, you must be earlier on the brakes here, because if you're too late, this can be a dangerous corner. You can spin and you can have a hard time. So being a bit earlier on the throttle, downshifting to 4th gear, cut as much as you can this curb without going on the grass here, because if you cut too much, there's a point of cutting too much that the car gets unbalanced. Now the moment that you hit the curb, you should be already back on throttle. You have to squeeze the RPMs in between this and the next corner, so that's exactly what we're doing. Use all the track like this, and even before that curb is finished, you should be already back on the brakes, because this corner exit is important. You want to cut the green, and the moment that you go on top of it, that's the moment that you push the throttle like this. Use all the track and make sure you're quick with your hands here in this corner, because if you will still continue to turn right and you don't focus on straighten up the wheel quickly, you might overheat the rear tires. You might have a moment of oversteer on this curb, so make sure you're quick with your hands to get back to 0 degrees. And now for this corner, the moment that we hit this curb on the inside, the red and white, even before straightening up the car, we will be preparing the brakes, because we have to shift the weight gradually. If you will go very abruptly here on the brakes, like 0.17 very quickly, it will unsettle the car a lot, because you don't have enough time to do the braking on a straight line, and because you're turning and still starting to add the brakes, you have to go progressively, and this is exactly what happens here. You will downshift to 1st gear, you will keep a very tight line, and here don't be afraid to use a lot of steering angle. Notice that we're crossing our hands here, because this is the lowest speed corner of the track, so you must the lowest the car's speed is, the more steering angle you can apply, so you must take advantage of it. Now pushing the throttle, and you have to modulate a bit on the throttle here, because you have a lot of steering lock applied, and even though you're unwinding the steering wheel, you can't go you can't push the throttle flat out. That's gonna be impossible. So you have to modulate up until you unwind the wheel more and more and more, and when you feel like the steering wheel is close to 0 degrees, then you can smash it. Use this curb, lean your right tires on it, and now just keep a tight line here. Just hug this white line. You can keep even a tighter line than this. I would just, if you're really focused on squeezing like every 0.0 something out of even this straight, you should keep a tighter line around here. And now for the next corner, the braking point will be before this exit road on the right side, the concrete one. Before it, like less than 1 car length, you will apply the brakes. And what's important here is that you can have 2 approaches. One of the approach, you go initially in a straight line and then you will turn more and more, or you can brake a tiny bit later and go diagonally towards the apex. Both will work, so if you want to be more in control, if you want to feel a bit safer, brake a bit earlier. Initially do your braking in a straight line for the first, let's say, half a second, and then start turning into the corner. Anyways, you will arrive in third gear. And super important around here is, once you're trail braking, you must hit the throttle to 100% in between this and the next corner. So this is exactly what we're doing. Going to 94, if you can go to 100, it's gonna be even better, because the reason why this helps, first of all, it keeps the minimum speed up, but secondly, you are going to 100% throttle and then you're gonna drop the throttle. The moment that you drop from 100 to 0, you will shift more weight to the front tires and the car will turn more. So make sure you're arriving to this curve by pushing the throttle. Make sure you're able to go close to 100% or even 100% of the throttle, and then apply a bit of the braking to make the car point, and then once again go back on the gas. So you see, this corner has like almost 4 stages. It's like brake, throttle, brake, throttle. You have to brake initially, go to third gear, then give a blimp of throttle to allow the car to track out wider to the curb, then brake again to prepare for the next corner, and then smash the throttle confidently. And now this will be just like a straight line up until the next corner. Here at the 50-meter board, you want to apply the brakes in 6th gear, downshift to 5th, and don't brake too hard, just barely brush the brakes. You want to apply the brakes to allow the car to turn, but you don't want to overslow the car, and aim to hit this curb with your tires. The moment that you hit it, you should go back on the gas like this. You should arrive to this curb if you're carrying the right amount of speed, and now bring the car all the way to the left. The braking point will be before the 100-meter board. So you look at the 100, before 100 you're gonna apply the brakes, you'll brake 70, you can even go to 75, you can brake a tiny bit harder, and while going into this corner, super important to cut a lot these curves. You see, cutting a lot, then pushing the throttle, arriving to the center right, and then dropping the throttle to make the car point. You can go even more aggressively on the throttle, because there's this curve right here that you can use. In this attempt, we didn't use it, but if you carry a bit more speed and if you lean the tire on this curve, that's gonna be perfectly fine. You will even gain a bit of time on your way out. And in short, that's the track guide for the Porsche Cup with Suzuka. I hope you have a great week around this track, and if you want to improve at a quicker pace, check out my sim racing course in the video description. Thanks for watching, bye bye.